driving through our first big snowfall of the year for some reason sounds like a good time to reflect on my last trip to Nigeria. And I think it is important to reflect because I did have a lot of takeaways that I want to talk out. I've journaled a bit about it, but being able to talk it out and try to articulate it to people who are similar to me in the sense where, you are the child of immigrants and you have a place in this world that's not where you live now that you can point back to and be like, this is basically home. This is like the origin of my lineage. And that's something Americans as a whole, it's a little different just because this is a very young country for one, but for two, we haven't always had that importance on community in the sense of a village or family, extended family, and that's something that you see in Africa with these villages. And I never, growing up, cared, if I'm being 100% honest, just never cared, never saw never had the same feeling or connection that my parents had to Nigeria and to the villages that we come from. And this past trip really was a revelation for me. I don't know if it's because I have a bigger family now. I have kids, and have been thinking a lot about just even responsibility and what that means to be responsible for others. I don't know if that's what changed, but I get it now, and it's funny to get. And one thing that really drove it home for me was we have a place in the village where my mom's village, where she grew up, where my grandpa built a school, and after his passing, that school really just like went away. And then now, fast forward to the last, I think, 10, 15 years, my mom's been using that same school building to do her medical missions. And people from her villages and villages are just in the area, they come for medical missions. And I think it was 400 the first day, 200 the next day, or something like that. But I saw 600 people, not including the children, that if they didn't see those to get that medical attention, that checkup, that physical basically, they would have no idea where they're at, where their levels are at. They wouldn't be able to have access to the medication they need. And she only goes back twice a year, but she's able to give people 6 months supplies of medicine, the ones that are on a maintenance program, and that is keeping them alive. And we do the same thing in my dad's village as well. And then there's a couple other villages where she does this work, but those are sponsored by those who by people who are from those villages. And I'm not gonna lie to you, when I was younger, I really thought all of this was a waste. I thought building houses over there was a waste. I thought going back and spending time and effort doing all this was a waste. Even when I went back and did photos the first time, I was like, these people are not really grateful for what my mom is doing. But I think that the lens I was looking at through was not the right one. I was actually I saw the gratitude this time. I saw the fact that if it wasn't for what my mom and dad are doing, that there's people that just would not be able to even exist in this world because they're not getting the medications that they need. And that really helped drive home just a sense of a bigger purpose, giving me more reason to reach for higher things. Because yes, I want to have a good life for myself, but the reality is, like, when my grandpa stopped, when he died and the school stopped, the village lost education. When my parents are no longer able to do this medical mission, they'll lose health. And now it's like, if me and my siblings don't do anything to make sure that these kind of medical missions can keep going on, that's thousands of people that are going to be probably dead because we were not willing to take on this greater responsibility. Like, the fact that by me just not doing anything, I could wipe out my whole village. And I never thought about it like that. I never thought about whether or not I should even be responsible for anyone besides myself and my family. And thinking about it, like the fact that if I don't do more now to be ready for when that time comes, I might as well be the one going into the villages and spreading disease and killing them all. I might as well be. And the trip definitely gave me just a greater sense of purpose in life and just a greater scope of what responsibility looks like. I find it hard to even care about some of those smaller things that I was, caring and worrying about, because I've got a big task ahead of me. Because education is what my grandpa brought, health is what my mother was able to bring, but for me, I see that the only way to make this sustainable is to bring some sort of economic development to the villages. So I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, thinking about, okay, how do we make a way for the villages to be self-sufficient? And with the way the timing goes, at some point in time, my parents are going to not be wanting to be in any of this Minnesota winters. So they're going to be back over there for a while. And during that time, it will be a great time for me to be able to have a lot of more experimentation into my plans as far as what economic development can look like for the villages. Like, I'm thinking about manufacturing, I'm thinking about 3D printing farms, I'm thinking about ways that we can bring a way of producing a product that can be made at a larger scale, not in an expensive way, but then still be available for the public and not something that's going to break the bank. Because a luxury good is not going to work. It's got to be something that is a small thing that a lot need, or if it's pleasure, it's a toy. It's not something. It's making something that's a necessity. So I gotta think a lot about what's being imported in, what has the potential to be also exported out. Because once we're in Africa, the problems that the villages have here, there could be the same problems in Cameroon, in Ghana, and any Chad and any surrounding, directly surrounding countries. So that's something that where we can now start getting into an export game as well. And the way I look at it is this is not something that will make me a millionaire, a billionaire. Honestly, I'm okay if it makes me $0, as long as everyone in the village is financially empowered to live a good life. Because being able to see how much my parents are responsible for the people being alive, it just creates that greater scope of this needs to continue. And I already know I do not have the skill set to continue it the way that they are doing it. But if everything could just pay for itself through finding a model, a method, a just plan for economic development for these villages, and something that could be potentially replicable too. We got a lot of Nigerians who are here in the United States that wish there was a way to just even help. And it's tough because you have to be able to trust that what you're doing is actually getting done and no one is taking advantage of it, because poverty makes people do the wildest things. Like the whole Nigerian scammer stereotype, and honestly truth, the actual ones who are doing it, it all stems out of poverty. And yes, some people got greedy and kept going and going, but even the ideas of it all comes from poverty. And I think that when you're economically empowered, you're now able to start looking at what a future looks like. Because I don't think the future of Africa looks like becoming and getting closer to the United States. I think it's going to look different, but it feels like a time machine going back there with some of the issues that we have. But I do believe that, there is some good. There is potential for some good. And you look at, I think it's Burkina Faso. They elected the youngest leader in all of Africa, and he made a lot of tough changes, and he decided not to do things business as usual, and paid off $4.7 billion worth of foreign debt. And now they're at a place where they can really become an economic powerhouse. So you imagine a place like Nigeria having some sort of economic empowerment from the lowest class up. I think that's just what is going to be needed to change it. And I also want to look a little bit at India and seeing how they've been able to change things up, because a lot of the issues that we see are just the side effects or after effects of colonialism, and specifically British colonialism, and the way things were left when these countries got their independence. It was not for them to be in positions of power, and without any economic empowerment, there's just not much hope. That everyone is waiting for someone to come save them instead of finding ways to save themselves. And that's one of the beautiful things about America, where the government, yes, there's regulations and things like that, but for the most part, it's not going to get in your way. Not the way it does in some of these African countries and other countries in the globe. You are able to do more to solve the problems you have. And when you start thinking about it from a place of, I am able, I am capable, I have the ability to, not only the ability to, but it's my responsibility to, then that's when you start taking those challenges and becoming a bigger, better person for those you care for and those around you. And you can't do that without economic empowerment, without feeling economically empowered. And a lot of what ends up happening in these countries is that there is a feeling of needing a savior, someone else to come and make those changes. And I think I get it, because I've had some tough times here and there, and in those tough times I always want someone else to just take responsibility and get me out of there. But no one's going to care as much, no one's going to be able to do as much as myself for getting me out of any situation and into a better situation. It's almost like the Mr. Beast effect. Like, everyone wants a Mr. Beast to come and just waiting for a Mr. Beast to come and take them out of their misery. But the ones that really get out of there are the ones that take it upon themselves to do what needs to get done. And you can't do that if you don't even think it's possible. And me finding a way to bring opportunities to these villages, I think, is going to be what's going to help create some of that possibility. Because there's opportunity everywhere if you look, but you'll also find roadblocks everywhere if you look. You're going to find what you're looking for regardless. So yeah, that's probably my biggest key reflection, biggest takeaway. Thanks for joining me on this drive. I'm actually almost there. As you can see here, like, I'm going to reverse this. This place is crazy snowy right now. I am in the city, so you just joined me like all the way from Woodbury basically to Minneapolis. And I don't know why I live here sometimes. Like, I don't mind the snow. I hate the cold. But like, when I have meetings and shoots and things like that can't get canceled, and I gotta drive through this, it's one of those, it brings up one of those why do I live here moments for sure. And now I'm getting stuck behind every light. But you know what we do? We just do it, because I can't control the lights, can't control the weather. All I can do is control my attitude, and I'm gonna be just fine with this. I'm gonna be just fine. Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I got no outro for you. That's it.